When you were working with the writers,
Yes.
what was the that moment? What triggered you to say, let's make this Erin a girl, a woman character, a woman detective?
You know, she was always, ultimately, by the time I was in the mix with Phil and Matt, they always knew she was Erin Bell. So they had already decided that this would be a more interesting story to tell and be the story they'd be wanting to commit to spending years of their life writing if Erin were female. So I think the question is just more about sort of how the moments where I recognized sort of her power or her strange charisma, the mystery of her character. There were moments on the page where I saw that and I recognized, okay, this is a movie about someone that I've wanted to see on the big screen.
Yeah, because when you see characters like this, they're usually men.
Mm-hmm.
And because women always have to be relatable, likable.
Right.
But not her.
I mean, I find her relatable, but she's definitely not always likable.
Yeah.
And so I think that is, that's the distinction I hope to make, is that I found times when I was actually quite empathetic to her, and that was really interesting to see that there was something in her obsessiveness that I really understood, even though I didn't quite understand the origins of it, and that's sort of what the story is trying to uncover. I understand obsession, and I understand fixation and compulsiveness, and I think that character, she has some of those qualities, and I'm sort of like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get you, scarily enough.
Well, we were talking, and I don't want to give anything away, but we're talking about a scene with her daughter. And it's such a powerful scene because it does humanize her.
Yes.
That must have been an amazing scene to shoot.
It was really great. I mean, there's something about what the journey of the movie is for this character toward taking some personal responsibility, admitting guilt, apologizing, that is so interesting because we live in a time where people at the highest levels of power aren't doing that. And that's really, it proves to me that it's a very difficult thing to do. It's very courageous. And I think for me, that's ultimately also why I was, that scene that you referenced with her deciding to be accountable to her kid. It's who we all, I think, in our most sort of human moments are trying to be.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that the movie gets us there with that character.
Well, I feel like it would be tricky to do a character that is, I don't want to use the word, I think morally, not compromised, morally complicated.
Uh-huh. And compromised. I would say she's pretty compromised.
How do you find the balance of creating such a... She is likable.
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah.
You're actually right.
Yeah.
She is likable. How do you find the balance of connecting to an audience, yet still showing that this person is so flawed?
I guess I have faith that audiences who in the past have secretly rooted for the anti-heroes of past cinema have it in their imaginations and in their kind of hearts and souls to make room for this woman, because I think we all as a culture want more complicated women and men in our storytelling. And so part of the way I have to go forward in telling stories about characters like this is to have faith that we find ourselves in them, even when it's a little bit like icky or uncomfortable.
Maybe that's the reason. Maybe people are afraid to see their own flaws on the screen.
Yeah. And I think that's why we get into this trap of making idealized heroes and idealized heroines and idealized men and women. But in fact, what I'm really learning as I get older is there's no drama in that. There's really no conflict. And so it's a big part of storytelling is sort of finding finding like sort of where the rubber meets the road, and sometimes that's a little bit of a bumpy path, and that to me is the best storytelling, and that usually means characters who are pretty messed up, at least in how I enjoy stories.
Yeah, I definitely, I was watching it, and I feel like this is the kind of movie that you would see in the 70s. You would,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
clearly that must have been a direction you were kind of
Yeah, I mean,
for.
the grand sort of great tradition of 70s filmmaking from the late 60s, I like to say from the late 60s to the early 80s, is sort of where I think most of my cinema love really lives. I mean, I'm voraciously trying to check out what's new, what's happening, what's all the voices that are in the mix, past and present. But that being said, those films really speak to me in terms of using genre as a platform to engage a larger discussion about our conflict or our discomfort or disappointment with larger systems. And I think that's what I've been trying to do with some of my work recently.
Yeah, you're succeeding.
Thank you. Thank you.
I gotta say, with Nicole, I was blown away.
Thank
by
you.
This performance.
Yeah.
What was it like working with her and finding Aaron and finding the balance for her?
Yeah. Nicole is an incredible collaborator, and I felt like the two of us found some sort of psychic spiritual plane where we were able to communicate a lot without a ton of over talking or overthinking. Whenever she said that makes me have to think too much, I knew, okay, I'm saying too much. I gotta like pull back and just give her a word or a feeling or a smell, and she's going to run with it because she works from a very instinctual place. And once I sort of understood how she works, which in this case, not in all movies, but I think in the case of this film, which was such a big transformation, I would define her process as somewhat method. And so once I understood that about her process, it was a lot easier for me to just sort of like nudge one direction or another in her. And, she was like a dream collaborator in that way for me.
I feel like, though, it's not just her. All this cast, I kept going,
yes.
That's that the person?
Yeah, no,
idea.
the cast for the film to me is just truly a breakfast of champions, because it just feels like there's so many wonderful, wonderful actors surrounding Nicole, and they're just each of them are bringing each other's game up as they all work together. And I could not have been happier or more grateful to work with such an incredible group of actors. I love actors, and that's all I really want to be doing when I'm making a movie, is working with great actors that I love. So I really lucked out in this case.
I guess the last question is, with Vengeance, I see Vengeance movies.
Yep.
I think they chicken out a lot.
Yeah.
This one doesn't.
Yeah, I so appreciate that you would say that, because I don't see the film as a vengeance movie unless we can start defining vengeance as an act with a terrible price to pay.
Yeah.
And so the idea for me of the film was always that in simply enacting vengeance, she loses yet again, and she is compromised even more deeply than before. And that is really important to me, that the audience feel that there's not a ton of satisfaction with it, and that I hope the satisfaction of watching the movie is that we got closer to a character who is difficult and tormented, and that maybe perhaps we can see a little bit of ourselves in her at times, and hopefully have a sort of larger capacity for empathy.
Critics everywhere agree.
I lied, I stole, and worse.
Nothing Nicole Kidman has done can prepare you for Destroyer.
You chose to play cops and robbers, and you lost.
And is now Golden Globe Award nominated for Best Actress. She delivers a brilliant and harrowing performance. Destroyer is beautiful, heartbreaking, cinematic perfection.
I just want to do one good thing.
Destroyer, rated R, in select theaters Christmas Day.